Welcome back to my Tech Stack Learning channel. Hope you all doing good. If you like my videos, please go ahead and give thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.
Today, we are diving into one of the biggest upgrades for AI right now, giving them tools. We're going to see how something as simple as a calculator or a quick web search can totally transform a text-spitting AI into a real agent that can actually do things in the real world. So let's get right into the core of the problem. You know, models like ChatGPT, they're amazing, right? But they've got this one huge ceiling. At the end of the day, they're just text generators. They're basically stuck inside this little box made of words, and they can't, on their own, reach out and touch anything outside of it. And this slide just lays it all out perfectly. On the left, an LLM by itself, it just generates text. That's its whole world. But you give it some tools, and look at that. All of a sudden, it can do real math, it can search the web for what's happening right now, and it can even check the actual live weather. It's like it's broken out of its text-only prison. Okay, so how does this actually happen? Let's unlock what's going on behind the scenes and start with the most fundamental question. What even is a tool when we're talking about AI? Well, it's actually pretty simple. A tool is just an external function or a service that the AI agent is allowed to call. You can literally think of it as giving the AI a set of superpowers, a toolkit that lets it perform tasks and interact with the world way beyond its original training data. And with these newfound superpowers, the agent's world just expands. It can suddenly perform calculations with perfect accuracy. It can hit the internet for real-time events. It can pull live data from APIs for things like, weather or stock prices. It can even start automating entire workflows by stringing different services together. It's a total game changer.
But here's where it gets really interesting. How does the agent know when it's supposed to use a tool? It's not just some simple if-then logic. There's a little bit of, magic behind how it all works. Let's pull back the curtain.
So this process is called tool calling. It's this intelligent decision-making step where the AI looks at your request and thinks, what do I need to answer this? For instance, if you ask, what's the weather like in Bangalore? The agent reasons, okay, that's not in my memory banks. This requires live data, and it decides to use the weather tool instead of just making something up. So if tool calling is the decision, how does that turn into an action? Well, that's where function calling comes in. This is the nitty-gritty technical part. It's the mechanism that lets the AI spit out its answer in a very specific format, just like you see here, this get weather, Bangalore, that our code can actually understand and then use to run the real-world function. All the big frameworks like OpenAI's API and LangChain have this capability baked right in. All right, enough theory. Theory is great, but it's way more fun to actually build something. So let's get our hands dirty. We're going to do a quick step-by-step walkthrough and build one of these agents ourselves using the LangChain framework. First things first, we got to get our environment set up. We just need to install a few libraries. We'll need LangChain, of course, for the agent framework itself, OpenAI to use their language model, and requests for our little weather tool we're about to build. Okay, next up, we're going to create our tools. And you'll see, these are nothing scary. They're just regular Python functions. Our first one is a super simple calculator. It just takes a math expression as a string, uses Python's eval function to figure out the answer, and then returns it. Easy enough. Our second tool is going to be a web search. Now, full disclosure, for this demo, it's just a placeholder. It's just going to return a fixed string. But you can imagine, in a real app, this is where you'd plug in a real service, like the Google Search API, to get back actual live results from the internet. And to finish off our toolkit, here's our weather function. And again, just like the search tool, we're keeping it simple for this example, but it perfectly illustrates the concept, how an agent could call out to an external API to fetch real-time information for any city you ask it about.
So we have our Python functions, but how does the agent actually know about them? Well, that's step 3. We need to wrap them up in a way that LangChain understands. We import this tool object, and we create a list where we give each tool a name, and this is the key part, a description. That description is super important because that's what the AI reads to figure out which tool to use for which job.
Okay, our tools are ready to go. Now we just put it all together. We create the agent. We'll grab our language model, in this case a GPT model from OpenAI, and then we call this initialize agent function. We passed in our list of tools, the model, and then, and this is a great little tip, we set verbose equals true. This is going to let us peek inside the agent's brain and see its thought process.
And finally, the moment of truth. Let's run it.
We just pass a simple question to our agent's run method. What is 45 times 12? Now, since this is clearly a math problem, our agent should know exactly which one of its new tools to grab. Let's see what happens.
Remember how we set verbose to true a second ago? This is why we did it. We get to see the agent's entire thought process unfold, step by step. And this process has a name. It's called the React framework. Let's break it down.
React is pretty intuitive. It stands for reason and act. It's basically a loop. First, the agent has a thought about what it needs to accomplish. Based on that thought, it chooses an action, which is one of our tools. Then it figures out the action input to send to that tool. And finally, it gets back an observation, which is just the result from the tool's execution. And here's exactly what that looks like in our example. Look at that. The agent thinks, I need to calculate a number. So the action it picks is, naturally, the calculator. The input it passes is 45 times 12. The observation it gets back from our Python function is 540. And from that, it concludes that the final answer is 540. It's so logical and clean. It worked perfectly.
So that was a pretty cool little demo, right? But this isn't just about making a calculator work. Let's zoom out for a second and talk about why this is such a huge deal in the real world. I mean, this technology is already out there doing some incredible things. We're talking about AI research assistants that can browse the web and summarize papers for you, coding assistants that don't just suggest code, but can actually run it, automated travel planners that can check flight prices and book hotels, financial tools that analyze live market data. The potential here is just massive. So, if you're going to take away just a few things from this, let it be these. Tools are what allow AI to finally break out of their text-only box. They let agents interact with live, real-world data. They allow them to perform concrete actions instead of just making educated guesses. And ultimately, this is the path to having them execute complex tasks all on their own. At the end of the day, it's this simple. Without tools, an AI is just a really, really smart chatbot. But when you give it tools, it transforms into a true agent, something that can actually act on your behalf in the digital world.
So, I'll leave you with this question. Now that you've seen the basic building blocks, now that you know how it all works under the hood, what problem are you going to solve with an agent?
Thank you for watching. If you have any specific questions or topic you want me to cover, please put in comment box. See you in next session.